like you want it. Stop talking like, ooh, we ain't lost it. You don't seem to know, ooh, oh, you're on cruise control. Don't wanna think of all the rules that you can pick and choose. I wanna make you feel like you talk about us like you want it. Talking like, ooh, we ain't lost it. You don't seem to know, ooh, oh, you're on cruise control.
The worst weather day of the class so far. Light turnout, which is reasonable. Anybody any questions? Oh, we covered last week. Stop, you guys. Any questions we'll talk about? Cool. Okay, we stopped at this slide right here. Something about vendor management, manage inventory. We talked about Granger last week. We've got a program called the vendor management inventory is in grocery stores. They talk about retailers here. So the manufacturer is responsible for inventory levels. So if you go into the store's not ordering products, the manufacturer is ordering products for the store. Like I said, most products in grocery are like that. So when the Doritos are down in the aisle, it's not the store manager's job to get the Doritos. It's the Doritos guy to make sure the shelf's full. So the data we had always possible is EDI. You guys know what EDI is? Electronic Data Interchange. So that's, again, when those scans came out, when those barcodes came out, it changed everything. And really in business, but certainly in retail. So this vendor managed inventory is kind of revolutionary because it's not the store guy who's managing the inventory, it's the manufacturer's job. If they run out of inventory or run out of space or run out of product, it's the retailers get pissed off the manufacturer. So Granger's got, this says retail, but it's also an industrial goods. Granger's got a program called Keep Stock. And what that means is like in a hospital, for instance, when they're ordering light bulbs and sheets and forks and all this stuff from Granger, it's not the hospital's job to order light bulbs. Granger's job to make sure there's enough light bulbs in the hospital. So even though this says retail, this vendor managed inventory, it's not just in retail, it's all over the place. And obviously what it takes is a tremendous amount of trust. Because especially in grocery, some dudes 500 cases short of the goal. End of the year, you don't want to miss 500 cases for nothing. So it takes a lot of trust to run this stuff. This is happening more and more. Again, it's all because of barcodes. Has anybody been in a distribution center? I never was in college. You guys anybody been in a distribution center? If you ever get a chance, you might want to try. This is a wild experience. But distribution center, like let's take UPS. I worked at UPS for 3 years when I was in college. I worked every 4 hours. So UPS, the trucks come in and they unload their stuff into basically this gigantic slide, right? And the slide's garbage. 50 on. This might be 100 trucks. And then there's like 200 guys here, maybe 150 guys or women or whatever. They're pulling packages. They send them on conveyor belts. There's 4 conveyor belts. One goes to the north, one goes to the southeast, northwest, southwest. And then it goes to conveyor belts. And then the conveyor belt goes by like probably 6 or 7 guys like this. That's what I did. The conveyor belt goes by me, and then I threw, and I mean threw, because I was 30 feet in the air. I was 30 feet in the air, and the packages would come by. I had to know the zip codes of Iowa and Wisconsin. So I remember I know the zip codes of Iowa and Wisconsin, and I put the packages in what truck it had to go, which is fine 8 months out of the year, but Christmas time and a little bit in summer. I'm not kidding you guys. I've never felt this. But when your socks get soaking wet because you're working so hard, that used to happen to me at UPS. So it's a tough job. But that's what the packages look like. This would be like, if this was 30 feet in the air, I'd be here picking these packages up and throwing them in trucks. It's a fancy, if you get a chance, UPS, Amazon, Walmart, if you ever get a chance to go through a distribution center, it's absolutely wild. And it's a way the packages go from a manufacturer
to the ultimate user. And they're just massive, massive, massive buildings, massive, gigantic, with thousands of employees. So I'm not going to all this like cross-docking is interesting kind of for me. Yeah, there's stuff in there. It's good to be. But just know that distribution center basically is obviously these gigantic buildings that distribute products in from manufacturer or in from center or whatever into somehow to a truck that's going with a truck that needs to deliver it. If you ever get a chance, maybe see one. It's fine.
Professor, no one online can. That's what they're saying.
It is.
Right here. Did they say that?
They can see, but they cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now? You guys hear me now? You hear me now? Much better. That's interesting. I turned it off and they can hear me. Okay, so obviously you can hear me, that's great. You missed probably the 3 greatest minutes of this class. I'm not going to go through it again. Right? So you guys know, yeah, you know, have you been in your distribution center before?
I was saying I did FedEx, but I didn't know what you meant by distribution center. But I did FedEx for a while.
Okay, what was FedEx? Was FedEx kind of like what I described?
It was tough. I did it for him.
What was your job there?
Package handler.
Package handler, yeah.
Scan boxes. Load it up.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yep.
But it's cool to see in terms of how things work. So anyway, that's distribution center. Just in time, we just talked about that, right? And that's it. So I'm out of here until next. Yeah. That's cool. I'm gonna go to the next chapter if I can figure out how to do it. Julian, you know how to do this? How do you get to the next chapter? Hey, I did it before class. I can't figure it out. Yeah, it's on here.
I really don't know.
That's all right. You'll know when I give you an F, you'll know why. I asked you a simple question, Julian, you can't help me out?
I don't know.
Huh? I count on you.
Try hitting that mid size of
A little air.
Oh, boom! Boom goes the ball. Very good. Now, I load it. That's 16. Thank you very much, you guys. Okay, let's talk about logistics. So logistics is more the how things get around. Logistics handles just more than what gets around. And supply chain, like I once stayed with one of my buddies, and his wife went to buy a Ford, and he goes into the parking lot, and there's like half the parking lot's empty. He talks to the Ford dealer and goes, "Oh, business must be pretty good." He says, "Well, business is pretty good. The Ford, I guess, uses a chip from China to start their cars, and they can't get the chips. There's actually all these cars in Detroit, they can't get out of Detroit because they don't have the chips. So that's a supply chain problem." Okay, so logistics is more how things get around. So logistics is design and management of a system that controls materials, right? So that's what logistics is. So we talked about just-in-time inventory, we talked about EDI, management, all that. We just talked about all this stuff. So materials management, physical distribution. We'll go through that here. So supply chain management, process of integration of business processes. Supply chain management connects the company supply side with its demand side. That's a very academic way of saying is supply chain's job is to make sure that they are able to provide the products that are demanded by the company, right? So if you get back to Target last week, we talked about that Swiss Army book bag. The supply chain's job is to make sure that the Target has enough of those bags. That's their job. Because demand, in my case, remember the example we used last class, was Target wanted 5,000 of them. The supply chain needs to make sure they get their 5,000, right? So, and this says it opens up supplier relationships with companies outside the buyer's domestic market. As the years go on, more and more of this stuff comes from overseas. You guys saw, if you saw what Biden did today, but Biden is trying to, but he's trying to bring a lot more manufacturing back to the United States. And a lot of it's got to do with infrastructure and products for infrastructure. That's all great, but over the last 20 or maybe 30 years, you know, like, we're a clothes make. You guys have any idea what clothes make? Almost all clothes, you know what I mean? Are they made in the United States? Southeast Asia, Honduras is a big market for clothes now. So that, you know, you guys know, there's all kinds of products are coming. You know, I remember there was a game when I was in, this was back a while. They were playing, go to Walmart and look at where products are made and try to find something that's made in the United States. That's like a game. So, I mean, international market, as you guys all know, and if we get a chance, we're going to talk about global marketing. It depends how class goes. If I got time at the end, we'll talk a little about global marketing and all the problems, all the good and the bad with global marketing. Firm's logistics platform is determined by location's ease and convenience of market reach or favorable cost circumstances. That's, again, a fancy terminology for saying how you actually ship something is determined basically on how easy it is to get the location, right? In the public, there's issues here when you start talking about business relative to safety, tax incentives, all kinds of stuff, transport policies, especially when you start going overseas. Now, do you guys know what tariffs are? I'm sure you've heard of tariffs. You guys know what tariffs are? If somebody like, if I bring, which I do, if we bring LED lights in from China and it costs, the LED lights cost $1. So I'm buying in China for $1. Let's just say I'm buying in China for $1. How much does it cost for me to get it to the customer, you think? Or what, no, let's not do this. What steps have, what do I pay? What things do I have to pay in order to get it to a customer? Very good, right? Shipping, what else? Okay, packaging, let's say, okay, that's fine. What else? Shipping to where? Okay.
From
So,
China.
yeah, you were in our last class, we talked about a lot of different, you can ship to a million different places, right? Wholesalers, like your mother, when she gets her clothes, if you go from a wholesaler, go from direct, it comes from a million different places. So if it comes from China, let's just say it's going to Los Angeles, and then it's sort of, the customer's in Atlanta. So I got shipping to LA, and I got shipping to Atlanta. This is all very confusing, because you can air ship, or sea ship. Obviously, if I ship this light from China to Atlanta via air, it's very expensive, but I get it in 10 days. Actually, 60. If I ship it versus ground, it's at least 30 days, because it comes over with sea. But as he said, there's shipping, there's packaging, but there's something called tariffs. The tariffs were put into place, so I have to pay, it's basically a tax, because I'm buying something from China. It's called a tariff. And it's put into place. Why would the United States government, think this out, why would the United States government make me pay? LED lights is a bad example. Let's say these chairs. Why? Because all LED lights come out of China. But these chairs, what are they, if it's coming from China and they charge you another $2 to bring it in the United States, why would the United States government do that? Yeah, Anthony, not Mahindra, I'm sorry, not just in bulk, period. Tariffs are used to try to encourage people to buy American. And it goes the opposite way, right? So when we ship to China, they're charging our companies. So it's all about making sure to try to get manufacturing domestic, okay? So that's what that is. Yeah, a third point. Academic. But basically, the tariff thing is a big deal, as well as how you ship. Shipping used to not be a big deal, but it is now, in terms of cost. If I got time, I'll go through that. Okay, considerations for selecting a mode of transport. Transit time, we just talked about it. So, this is a real life example. I sold some, we sold some, well, we haven't sold them yet, but we're doing a contract right now. And they're actually LED lights from them. You know these like big tents you see at sporting events and big tents. Well, those tents have lights, and this is one of the manufacturers of those tents, and they bought our lights. They are coming from China. They're coming from China. Let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. So they're coming from China. They're going to I'm shipping them directly to the end user. Okay. And then they put them in their tents. You guys got that? Pretty simple. So when these guys order lights, are they ordering one light? What do you think? Well, the lights are pretty big. You're in the wrong way. Why would they not order one? Why would they not order one? Exactly. So you guys know what a pallet is? That's a term I'm using every this term. QT, tell us what a pallet is. You know what a pallet is? You get it in your store?
Yeah, we get like pallets of water.
Okay, so a pallet, explain what it is. Just, again, when I was in college, I had no idea what a pallet was. What is it?
Like, has like water that's placed on the pallet thing, like sealed around.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So most pallets, you guys are 4x4. So it's 4 feet by 4 feet. All right. Now to give you an idea, I can do the exact pricing for you guys. So we're buying these lights for $48. Okay, to ship one, about 25 to 27 bucks. But to ship a pallet, which is 320 lights, is about $2,500. So you know what I told the customer? That's what the minimum order is for them to buy. Pallet, right? And a lot of industries are like that, right? You have to buy a minimum order of a pallet because the shipping comes way down per unit. You guys got that? So when we talked about transit, the reason I brought up this transit time because I'm talking to this customer, and I said, okay, it's going to take about 30 days to get the lights. Okay, you said, great. So let me ask you a question. What happens so sometimes they get customers who need this stuff right away. Hey, can you get it right away? And this stuff, we can get it right away. The problem is not getting it, it's the shipping. So like I said, in air, it's going to be like 10 days. What happens to the price? It goes up, exactly right? So what we did is, and I know the differences between 10 days and 30 days. Just say whatever it is. Whatever the difference is between 10 days and 30 days, I just said, okay, instead of this light, we sold to them for $158. So that's for 30 days. So if it's 10 days, it was another $16 for air. So that's the deal. If you want to pay another $16, you need it 10 days. If you want to wait 30 days, it's $158. You guys got it? Okay, so that's transit time. How fast do you want, when you're thinking about how you're shipping stuff, how fast do you need it there? Predictability is massive. What's predictability when you're shipping something? What do you think that means? That?
Like possible delays.
That's exactly right, Tyler, right? So predictability means, hey, if I ship something to a retailer, it doesn't matter where I'm shipping it to, how certain am I that it's going to get there? And we talked about, like, one of the first classes we talked about this school ordering these chairs. It's the most important thing is to make sure the stuff gets there on time. And if they're going to be charging a little bit more money, you can charge a little bit more money. But predictability in terms of what's going to happen is, paramount. What happened, again, we talked about the Suez Canal last class. And now I don't know how many ships, you know, I know the last class was 350 ships, and again, these ships are football fields long, billions of dollars waiting to get through. So obviously that's a problem because you don't predict something like that. That's great, except what do you tell customers waiting for that product? What do you tell Ford when you can't get them chips? So getting predictable is important. Now let me ask you a question. If predictability is a big deal, where are you going to manufacture, you think? Exactly right. Why? Exactly right. So if you've got a product that you must have at a certain time, manufacturing overseas is really risky. Even though it might be cheaper, it's risky. So predictability, cost, obviously, shipping by, we just went through it. Shipping by air is more expensive than shipping by sea or by truck. So if cost is an issue and you can wait, you ship it by truck or sea. You don't ship it by air. The non-economic factors have to do with, this sounds silly, but okay, what happens if what's going on in Myanmar right now? Burma. You guys follow any of that? They're having a revolution, right? So the military is trying to take over and the people are rioting in the streets. Myanmar. Used to be called Burma. Well, that's great. What happens if you were buying shit from Myanmar? What happens if you're buying whatever they ship and you're in the United States and there's a revolution? I'll give you another example. This is true story. This was a wild conversation. We have these things called aqua bags. And what happens in the water purification company? When the water comes through the products, it's got to go somewhere. So they're bags. They're bags you fill the water in. And we used to buy them in Israel. We buy them in China now. We used to buy them in Israel. And one day we needed, I don't know how many bags. We needed to order some more bags. So we called over there and ordered some more bags. And the guy called me back and said, well, it's going to take about 6 weeks more than it's supposed to. I go, what? He says, yeah, I'm sorry, it's going to be 6 more weeks. I said, why is that? He says, our factory got bombed. Yeah, really, can you believe that? From Gaza. I'm not going to go into politics of the Middle East, but Palestinians lobbed a bomb over. It happens to hit their factory. So when they say non-economic factors, that's the type of stuff you need to think about. So that's what you need to think. All those 4 things are what you need to think about when you think about, hey, how am I going to ship something? Three factors decide the level of inventory. Okay, you guys, level of inventory. Well, level of inventory means is how much of that product do I have in a warehouse, do I have it in the store, do I have it in a manufacturing plant? That's called inventory, right? There's something that's not on here. There's something called finished goods inventory. And basically parts inventory. It's not too hard to figure out. If I'm making this chair, right? And I'm whatever factory is, I'm making this chair. You've got fabric over here, you got buttons over here, you got cables over here, you've got screws and nuts over here. Those are parts inventory. So you need 100,000 bolts. You got to make sure you have 100,000 bolts because that's how many you need the chairs. But the real problem is finished goods inventory. It doesn't do you good to have enough bolts if you don't have enough fabric, right? So finished goods inventory means you need to make sure you have enough product done in order to ship it when you need it. You guys got that? So inventory is usually 2 parts. One is finished goods and one is parts inventory. So how do you figure out how much inventory to build? And we talked a little bit about this last week, but I don't think we got it directly as much as I want you guys to understand it. Why do we not want to have a lot of inventory? What's the cost? Space, right? So if you got a space this big, and half of it's supposed to be chairs, again, and that's supposed to be your inventory, and instead you have the whole building as inventory. When it comes to inventorying blackboards or whiteboards or whatever they're called now, that you've got to sell, you don't have any space for it. So you got to have the right inventory, right? In order to make sure you don't have too much space, you can put space on other products. One, why else don't you want too much inventory? Awesome, right? So what happens if you don't sell it? And what happens to it? You gotta throw it away, or you sell it like at half price, right? Have you guys ever, anybody buy from Overstock.com? Anybody hear it? Nobody's ever heard of Overstock.com? So Overstock.com is, if you guys are buying stuff, you need to check it out. Overstock.com basically just did what I said. Overstock.com, if there's umbrellas, check this out, you guys. I took my wife's car. How classy is this, huh? I forgot a jacket, I forgot a real umbrella. I was so discombobulated on the way here. But anyway, what was I talking about?
Overstock.
Overstock. So, thank you. So Overstock.com, say the manufacturer of this umbrella makes 100,000 of these umbrellas, and they think they're gonna sell 100,000, they only sell 90,000. What they do is sell 10,000 of these umbrellas at a lower price to Overstock.com. And at Overstock.com, sell these umbrellas at a lower price. So Overstock.com is a pretty good website, and the products on there are less than normal, but obviously you know, you're not gonna be able, you get on Overstock.com what they've got. It's not like you go in there, you know, you're not gonna have a lot of picking. But if you're looking for something, especially if you're not that particular, that's what happens. So that's another reason why you don't have too much inventory. And the biggest reason is, if you don't, well, not the biggest, another reason is you're tying up your money, right? Who's finance here again? Your finance, right? What's that mean when you tie, what does that mean? You ever heard the term tie up your money?
Yeah.
It is tough to explain. You've heard of the term?
Yeah.
You guys know? What do you got,
It's
Kelly?
like not liquid.
What's that?
It's not liquidated.
It's not liquid,
Yeah.
right? Liquid. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, liquidated. Yeah.
Yeah, so liquid, okay.
You can't spend the money like in cash right now.
Exactly. So you know what, Tyler, that's what's better terms of liquid, not liquidated. Liquidated is when you sell something. Liquid means you can sell it quickly. So if you're real estate, so one of you guys wants to get into real estate, right? So is that a liquid asset? No. What's a liquid asset? Cash, exactly, right? So if you tie that money up in inventory, that's money that you've paid, you've built the inventory, right? You've spent, you know, on 100,000 of these umbrellas, it costs them $5 a piece. They got $500,000 tied up in these umbrellas. The longer they don't sell those umbrellas, that means they got $500,000 that they can't use someplace else, or they're paying interest on it, right? So you don't want to do that. You don't want inventory later on. You want to move it as fast as possible to generate cost and to make sure you're not tying up cost. So order cycle time, there's something called sales cycle. We'll probably talk about this when we get that. Sales cycle, right? So when they say order cycle time, Target's buying those Swiss bags again, like they did last class. What is a sales cycle or order cycle? What do you think that means? What does it mean? Between the time what? You're close. What is it? One more time?
That's when they order it, and then it ends when
They get it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So sales cycle means, actually, for this class, let's do this in case it's not a test. Sales cycle means if I'm selling this umbrella to Target, well, yeah, this umbrella to Target, I have to sell it, right? So it's going to take me, I got 1 meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings, and somebody buys it, right? And then they buy it, and I got to make it, and I got to deliver it, right? So that sales cycle could be 8 or 9 months, 10 months. The longer the sales cycle, what does that mean for manufacturing? They have to have this stuff they have to have the stuff ready to go. So the longer this is for people to order, they got to make sure it's in inventory. So a sales cycle or order cycle time's got to do from the minute you talk to a customer about something to the time that they actually get it. That's called a sales cycle. So do you want short or long sales cycles? Of course, short, right? Listen, and this, I have this problem in my company all the time. The longer the sales cycle, you know what happens? More can go wrong. But especially we're talking about someone to the government last week. You know, I give us all the rest of the night about stories about, I thought I had something sold, but people get new jobs. They get sick. They get married. You know, whatever the case is. You know, the longer the sales cycle, the more shit can go wrong and you end up losing the sale. Order cycle, sales cycle, same thing. Desired customer service levels. You know, a lot of people, a lot of manufacturers and not retail so much, a lot of manufacturers, you know, Best Buy, if they call Daniel or a receiver, they don't want to be told, well, geez, we don't have them. You know, or you've got to wait 6 weeks for them. They said, no, we want them in a week. So Samuel needs to know that they need to build those receivers because they think they need to know Best Buy might be calling them and they need to make sure they can deliver. So customer service becomes a bigger factor there. So you have to have more inventory. And again, if you have more inventory, you probably have to charge more. You don't tell the customer that, but that's what happens. And use of inventories as a strategic tool, this happens all the time. In my little water company versus the LED company, the little water company, I make all of our products by order. So when somebody orders them, we make them. And it takes, we ship in 8 weeks. That's what our company does. So if somebody orders whatever they order, we take the order, it takes 8 weeks. In LED, we get them right away because they're already housed in the United States. So what does that mean? Well, in the water company, if I had which I don't, but let's just say I had a competitor who inventoried these products like mine, and a customer came to me, and I told them, oh shit, it's gonna take 8 weeks. Then he goes to my competitor, and the competitor says, you know what, I'm inventorying those things, I can give them to you in 2 weeks. Guess who gets the sale? Better, right? So you can use inventory. You know, I'm making it sound like a negative if you've got too much inventory, but in some markets you've got to have inventory because it's a competitive advantage. And we're very vulnerable. I'm completely vulnerable. If a competitor came in and started inventorying stuff, and now that we've lost sales. So like we've lost sales because like when hurricanes come through, you know, we know a hurricane's going to hit in a week. Somebody from Florida calls up, hey, I need 10 of those things. Guess what? We ain't got 10 of those things. So we would invest, right? So before hurricane season, which is kind of our big season, we would build up inventories. So in that case, if somebody called and said, I need something tomorrow, we'd be able to ship it, but we don't do that anymore because we don't want to put the money into it. So that inventory thing can be used as good and bad. It depends on what the deal is with your competition. All right, so those are 3 things that factor how much inventory. Storage facilities. You guys know what a storage facility. You know what a storage facility. This is a good one. What is outsourcing? Bringing materials. So, give me an example.
Or like if you name tools with a rubber handle, like bring in the
From where?
rubber from,
And whoever's making it, is it your plant in another place, or is it some third party, another party? Exactly. So how did I tell you I sell my water purification systems? Do you remember? Who sells them? Granger, right? Or sales agents, right? The sales agent sells them. Did I tell you guys who makes them? Do I have a manufacturing facility?
No.
So I've got what's called a contract manufacturer in South Carolina. Who makes all my equipment. Okay. Not an employee. Marketing. So do I have a marketing person? So we hire a marketing firm and we do like mass emails and shit. How about accounting? You think I have a good accountant? No. Okay. I have an accounting firm. All this is outsourcing. If we do it in-house, like if I had employees selling my equipment, that's not outsourcing. If I had an accountant doing our accounting, that's not outsourcing. Whenever you have somebody do something else, it's called outsourcing. It's a major league issue today. If you call up customer service for most consumer goods companies, who do you get to talk to? Exactly. Pakistan, India, not China, Pakistan, India, Indonesia, Philippines. Maybe you guys aren't old enough, but once you start calling customer service, call customer service with Comcast. Really anybody. You ain't gonna, it's maybe 50-50 if you get some in the United States. That's called outsourcing. So Comcast is outsourcing customer service to employees in the Philippines who aren't their employees. It's a third company that's performing that service. You guys got that? You got that? You're falling asleep. You all right? You got that? Yeah, you.
Yeah, no,
You what?
I wasn't trying to look like
That's okay. I'm just making sure you're okay. Yeah. You look like you're falling asleep.
oh no, I was just thinking that
You're dreaming?
does that.
Huh?
I was just thinking. Probably.
That's an interesting comment. Why would Comcast do that?
I don't want to pay for
Exactly.
service and
Exactly. So now you're an American. Okay. So now you're an American and you call somebody who can barely speak English.
Yeah.
What does that do? How do you feel about that?
help at all.
Yeah.
So,
And I feel, by the way, these people overseas are like really smart. Because in order to get those jobs in the Philippines, you gotta be really smart. The United States are not great jobs. Overseas are fantastic jobs. I actually feel bad for them. I try to be as nice as possible because.
get mad at somebody who has nothing,
Exactly right.
whereas it's just asking.
Exactly. Well, they're saying it's a money thing. They're saying I'd rather save the money in customer service and take the chance of pissing off my customers. That they made that choice. You know, on the other hand, I don't think I said this in this class. I think I said less than this. I can't believe it. I bought a Dell computer. Okay. And the customer service guy was an Indian. And he spoke perfect English. Perfect. And we're talking back and forth and selling me this stuff. And something. So I buy the computer. And at the end, he says, okay, Steve, I hope you enjoy your computer. I want you to know that any problem you have, you call me. Here's my cell phone and my email. I almost fell. I've never had somebody say that to me. So Dell looks at it the other way, right? Dell looks at it that they want to make sure, even though this guy was an Indian, he spoke perfect English, he couldn't have been more professional, more nice. And he gave me his personal email and phone number because now if I got a problem, I call him or email him. That is a massive, that's huge. Again, you guys maybe aren't getting there yet. When you start buying a bunch of stuff and you have problems with customer service, you're gonna really value that. So customer service is something that's outsourced sometimes, and even if it is, it can be done right, but in most cases it's not. That's what outsourcing is. And outsourcing logistics services is there's something called third-party logistics, and that's what it says. That's what the industry is called. The third-party logistics companies, and they're gigantic. And you see them on the road every single minute on the expressway, you don't even know. Let's just say DLX, the company. So DLX is an outsourcing logistic company. What does that mean? Me, I'm a perfect example. So I make a water purification system. And I've got to ship it to Denver. So what do? Well, I have a truck to take it to Denver. I don't want a truck to take it to Denver. Of course not, because I don't own anything. So what do? To who? Close. Not just close. It's a distributor, but in the shipping business. So those are called third-party logistics companies. And I'm telling you, it's a gigantic, massive business. You will not get on the expressway for more than a minute and not see a truck that's a third-party logistics. There's hundreds of companies that do this. So what I do, in this case, DLX is, there's thousands of these guys. I will call DLX. I will, but what the manufacturer does. They come to our plant, pick up the product, and it's going to be on a pallet. They put it in the truck, and what do? You think? Nope, not what are they doing for that? Good, but what are they putting in? You think, so I've got one pallet in a truck, and you take that to Denver? Exactly, you're filling that puppy up. So they could be going to a distribution center to pick up more products, or they could go to other manufacturing plants and pick up the pallets. So that DLX truck has got all kinds of shit in it, right? But all of that probably is going to Denver. That's what a third-party logistics company is. That's outsourcing logistics services. I'm boring you guys to tears. I don't want to bore you. Supply chain cycles, you got a customer, retailer, distributor, manufacturer, supplier. It's just what I said before, right? It's just what I said before. So the supply chain cycle, sales cycle, whatever it is, it's the timing it takes all these people to do their jobs and to get a product through. So timing is everything. And here's a good quote. Here's a good thought. When I say timing is everything, and I'm ordering, let's go back to the Swiss bags, the Swiss Army bags at Target. When you're ordering from a supply chain standpoint, what is the most important date? What do you think for Target? What's the most important day? When what? Well, getting it in the store, right? That's right. You're right. That's right. So the most important date when you're ordering something, let's say they're running a July 4th ad, so they need to get it July 1st. That's the date, right? So when we start talking about the supply chain cycle thing, it starts from the end date. It doesn't start at the beginning, it starts at the end. And Target, right, with Swiss Army in this case, they've got to work backwards. And they've got to figure all the way down to here, right? So the customer orders on July 1st, but all this shit's got to be done in order to get the bags there July 1st. But the whole supply chain, it doesn't start when the product's made. It starts when the product's ordered. Because that tells you how, then you got to figure out, whoa, if they need it by July 1st, what dates do I have to do all this other stuff in order for me to get 5,000 bags to Target on July 1st? Okay? So when we talk about dates, it starts at the end, not at the beginning. Supply chain, the internet, just like a dog. I put this chapter together. I thought this was not. Here's a dot, you guys. Because the internet firms are able to conduct more global comparisons among suppliers and select from a wider variety of choices. So I talked about this in a previous camp. What's a buyer, you guys? What's a buyer? We talked about a buyer. I don't think it was on the midterm. What's a buyer? What's a buyer? And works for who? Example. Okay, it could be. So what's a wholesale buyer buying? Very good, right? So let's go clothing. Let's talk about your mom. So clothing wholesaler, a buyer of that clothing wholesaler, say it's men's clothes, right? That's all the wholesaler does. What does a buyer do? Exactly. So you could have a shirt buyer, pants buyer, maybe they're gigantic, and so you can have one guy buying. When I say buying, we talk about this in this class, right? Wake up, you guys. We talk about this in this class, or the buyers, look, we talk about it, right? So a buyer is not a consumer buyer. A buyer is a person at a company that's buying products or materials or whatever for that company. You guys got that? So, what in the old days, before I was born, when you sold stuff, you had all the power because the buyer, in my case, let's talk about. Okay, let's do it. So I'm in Coke and I'm selling in Atlanta and I'm selling to Kroger, all right? And I tell them, hey, you know what? For the 4th of July, you can buy cans at $6 a case. Great. I'm talking to the guy. In the old days, you say, okay. Now what he does is he goes to LA Kroger and looks at what they're paying. And then he says, wait a minute, LA's paying $5.50, why am I getting $6? That would never happen before. So the whole internet's made the buyers, and that happens a million times a day. The buyers, because of the internet, have become a lot more smarter, which means manufacturers have to be smarter. You gotta watch it because you get caught. So that's like a duh, that's like a duh, but 24-hour customer service, 24-hour order tracking, what do you, again, this is duh stuff, but what do you get when you ship something at any place now? What do you get? What's the number called? Tracking. So what's a tracking number do? Yeah, see where it is, right? Do you guys use tracking numbers? Who's used the tracking number? What do you use it for? Amazon. Amazon's good about it, right?
Yeah.
So what's it tell you?
And it tells you when it's been delivered to Amazon, when it's out on the truck.
Mostly, yeah, the biggest thing is when it's going to be delivered, right? Or if it needs signatures. So yeah, I mean, this is all duh stuff, but it makes the supply chain, it makes order fulfillment a lot easier. And it makes the people who are buying, especially commercial entities, a lot smarter than they used to be. This is an interesting point. I've never had a problem with this. But and if I talk about global marketing, I've got so many stories about global marketing. But global marketing, it's stuff that we take for granted. It's like internet. If you're buying cocoa in I don't know, in Africa, it's in where the hell did I make cocoa? It's a country in Africa that's into cocoa. That's all great, except like 3/4 of the country doesn't have the internet. So how do you order? We don't think about stuff like that. We just get on the computer and order stuff. But when you're dealing internationally, internet is not always there. So if it's not there, you've got to plan for that in the supply chain. If they got to get stuff done through mail, it's going to take longer to get stuff done. And that's one of the millions of things that's hard about doing international. It's like one of a million things. And again, maybe if we get time, we'll talk. Okay, that's it. Terrible class. Really pissed me off. Not good. I'm sorry. Questions? No questions? I wouldn't have questions either. Boring. Hopefully next class is better. We'll see you Monday, guys. Have a good week.